So I've already lost about 15 days of training this year due to illness. If you're new here, I was ill in early January and then I was also ill again in early February. Now that's not exactly ideal when you are training for some of the hardest events you've ever signed up for in your life. And to actually support my cycling, I've signed up with a coach for the first time and I've been with him now since November. And together we're building towards both the Fred Whitton Challenge and one of the UCI Gravel World qualifying series events. Thankfully, the last couple of weeks have finally started to feel strong again. I'm currently in a VO2 max block ahead of moving into some threshold work. So now kind of felt like the perfect time to give you an update on my training and also talk about a few other bits as well. Weight, nutrition, supplements, all that good stuff. So what I'm gonna do in today's episode is take you through a full week, day by day. Today is a Tuesday, so I've just got an easy hour of zone 2. So I'm gonna crack on with this, but then I'll join you again tomorrow on Wednesday for the first proper interval session of the week. Let's get it. Good morning. It is Wednesday and today I have my first proper interval session of the week. As I mentioned yesterday, at the moment we're doing a VO2 max block. I've never done anything like this before in the past. Typically when I've set my own plans, what I've done is had, a threshold session and a VO2 max session and gradually progressed them. However, my coach Bernardo has prescribed me more of an intensive period of just VO2 max work before then going into threshold work. The idea is that we're going to lift the ceiling before we then actually work on that threshold, that functional threshold limit. We've got 2 VO2 max sessions, one on Wednesday and one on Friday. Wednesday is more of that kind of short effort. So we're doing 30 10s and we're doing 3 blocks of around about 8 minutes. On Friday, that's when we have your more typical VO2 max session. So we've got 4 times 3.5 minutes at 270 to 300 watts. Let's have a quick look at how I've actually progressed these sessions over time. These sessions are certainly not static. Every week we have changed something up and I'm giving feedback to my coach based on every single session so we can make recommendations just so that overload is nice and suited and I'm making the gains that I need to do. On Wednesday, for example, rather than there being 3 times 8 at X watts, we had 2 times 11. So what you'll be able to notice there is that we've increased the overall the overall time actually at that VO2 max. Looking back at this previous week as well, you'll also notice a few other things. We're tracking all carbohydrates and some other health metrics as well, so we can see how we are progressing. I'm not going to get into those now. What I will do is touch on those later on in the week. Right now, I'm going to finish this breakfast and then I'm going to jump on the bike. Right, we are on the bike now. Looking forward to this one. So, reminder, VO2 max session. I've got 3 blocks of 12 reps, 30 seconds, probably between the 300 and 320 watt range. I've really been enjoying these, to be honest with you. I'm not much of a long threshold effort. I like the punchy stuff and I really get in the zone when doing these. So I'm gonna do my warm up and then I'll join you again when I'm in the hurt locker. Whew. That was hard going, I can't lie.
So the key difference between this week's session and last week's session is that we've got 5 seconds less recovery in between the VO2 max efforts. That 5 seconds might not sound like a lot, but it's 33% reduction in the recovery. Boy, I can feel it. I think I normally start to recover around that 10-second mark. So that extra 5 seconds was really making the difference there. I've also increased the watts a little bit by 10. I'm going to crack on and get this done now that you've got a feel for it. So speak to you later. Woo! Hello. It's Thursday. Guess which idiot chanced the weather. First day out in short sleeve jersey and bib shorts. And yeah, cursed, angered the rain gods. It's not quite spring yet, but we can only dream. Anyway, Thursday. So Thursday is my double day. I do a strength session and also an easy recovery spin, and that's what I'm doing now. Did the strength session this morning. I'm keeping my strength sessions fairly basic at the moment, and if you want to know more kind of in depth of what I'm doing, I'll link a video up above that you can go and watch. But at the moment, yeah, nice and simple. I'm still focusing on squats. I'm trying to get in those high weight, low rep ranges. So at the moment for me, that's around about 70, 75 kilos from anywhere between 4 to let's say 6 reps. And I've got a couple of accessories around that as well. I'm doing some glute bridges and some push-ups, and also some calf raises and some pull-ups. The push-ups and the pull-ups, they're mainly just for kind of all-around balance, but they do actually translate to the bike as well. I really enjoy the strength sessions. I was actually training in the gym a long time before I got into cycling, so it's much more my comfort zone in terms of pushing myself. And whilst I've got you here as well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the supplements. Now, I've not spoke about this previously, but I'm actually taking a good little stack of supplements at the moment. Some of it just to support my general well-being, but also some of it I'm hoping is actually going to boost my performance. So you've got your standard stuff. I'm taking multivitamins, but I'm taking creatine for the muscle endurance, one of the most well-researched supplements out there. I'm taking vitamin D because us Brits do not get enough of it because the weather constantly looks like this. Something new that I'm taking is called Tongkat Ali. Now, there's been a lot of research about this, which seems to suggest that it actually supports natural testosterone production. When you're doing a lot of endurance sports, that is certainly something which can take a bit of a hit as a man, so it's quite important to look after it. And then to help with sleep and recovery in the evening, I'm taking some magnesium and also some ashwagandha, which helps reduce stress. So yeah, I feel a little bit like a pharmacist at the moment, but it does seem to be doing the job. I feel like I'm recovering really well at the moment, and my sleep's good too, so yeah, let me know if you have any comments about that. But anyway, I am absolutely piss wet through now, so I'm going to crack on and get this recovery spin over and done with, and I'll join you again tomorrow, Friday, for my next VO2 max session. Hello, it is now Friday, and we are back on the roads of Watopia for our VO2 max session. This is the second one of the week, as you know, and as a reminder, today we are doing a slightly longer block. We're doing 4 times 3.5 minutes at around 290 to 300 watts. I did a similar session last week. I did 4 times 3 minutes at 290 watts, and I found it quite challenging towards the end, but I enjoyed it. Admittedly, I have a bit of DOMs in my quads from the strength session that you saw me do yesterday. So we're going to see how that goes. At the end of the VO2 max block, I've got 25 minutes at zone 2, so join you back then. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my weight, and also I'm going to tell you about something that I haven't shared on the channel so far yet, a secret trip that I'm going on in April. Look, by now you know the script. I'm going to roll a cheesy montage of me doing this VO2 max session, and then I'm going to join you when I'm back at the end, out of breath. So see you in a minute. Pray for me. Let's get it. Hey DJ, play some aggressive drum and bass. Bloody glad that's over. Not the best today. I failed the last 2 sets. I was just carrying too much fatigue in my legs from the squats the other day. It's something that I'm going to have to feed back to my coach. Obviously, that shouldn't be interfering with your on the bike work. To be honest, it's the first time it's actually happened, so it might just be an off day, but we crack on, don't we? Anyway, I mentioned 2 things before I got into those intervals that I was going to talk. First and foremost, my weight. So, doing a challenge like Fred Whitton, it's a lot of climbing involved, and watts per kilo really matters. I spoke to my coach when I very first signed up with him and mentioned my weight at the time, which was probably around about 84, 85 kilos at the time. And he said it's not something that he's too concerned about. We aimed to bring it down a little bit, which I did. I did just below 78 kilos at my lightest, but over Christmas and across those illnesses, it's now hovering back up again between 80 and 82 kilos. It does fluctuate quite a lot. I weighed myself today and was around about 81 and a half. What we don't want to do is starve our training sessions. I could lose a lot of weight. I've done it before. I know how to do it. Sure, my coach does as well, but that would probably be to a detriment to my actual training. So what we're actually doing is focusing on building power. I'm hoping now spring's coming around and I get outside a little bit more in the nicer weather, I'll naturally just trim off some of this fat anyway, fingers crossed. And I mentioned a super secret event that I've not told anyone about yet. So, it's actually going to be a really good opportunity to test my climbing legs ahead of the Fred Whitton challenge. So it's been under wraps for a while, but one of my good friends, Rory, is getting married and his brother has organised his stag do in Mallorca. So I'm going to be taking the bike and I'll get out and do some good miles over there. I'm really looking forward, and it's going to tie in nicely with a threshold block that I'm doing after this VO2 max block, and I'll be able to test the legs on some of the climbs out there. I have actually been to Mallorca in the past. I went there when I'd very first just started cycling, so I'm really looking forward to actually going out there and comparing some of my times up climbs like Sacalobra. I'm going to wrap up this session now, and I'm going to join you again for the weekend. I'm hoping to get outside over the weekend. I think the weather's going to be okay. So I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. It is Saturday, and today we're out for a nice, easy spin with Giant Liverpool. I spoke about this before, but they have 3 rides: espresso, cappuccino, and mocha. Today's a mocha ride, which is like the really chill, probably zone 1, zone 2 type of ride for me. Now you can obviously see from behind me that it's looking a little bit grey and gloomy this morning. It's actually meant to be sunny at some point, so I'm slightly underdressed. I've had to give it some beans just to warm myself up. I think it's going to get better though. It would be nice if the sun makes an appearance, but we get what we're given, don't we? Yeah, just as I start to ride home, the sun comes out. Classic British weather, but it's been a lovely little ride today. Hello and welcome back. It's Sunday, so I've got about 3 hours on the cards today. I'm meant to be doing some efforts. I find them a bit difficult at the moment on the outdoor group rides. How do you fit an effort in when you're riding with other people? But yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. We've just done a bit of a sweet spot effort, and at the end I need to give it a good 10-minute whack just to replicate the type of efforts I might be doing on the Fred Whitton challenge. Ride this. I'm not really sticking to the plan, but I'm hoping just by giving some digs up little climbs and sprints and stuff, I'm doing enough to kind of deplete the legs before a final effort at the end. We're on our way back now. It's going to get a little bit trafficky, so I'll join you closer to the durability test. That is today's ride done, and that is the weekend wrapped up. Attempted some efforts around Sefton Park. If you don't know, Sefton Park is like a very popular route for runners and cyclists in Liverpool. It's basically in a bean shape. Great vibes. It's very, very busy today though. There was a lot of time where I was stopping and starting with the traffic, so I just did what I could. I did around about 17 minutes whenever I can, trying to keep the watts around about threshold, so anywhere between 250 to 270 watts. I'll have to have a little look on Strava when I get back in. So I'm going to wrap up this video now, and I will join you back at the gap, and I'll run through some of the numbers of the week. Yeah, it's been a good one this. Really enjoyed today. Lovely little pastry and a coffee with Aaron at the end at a cafe that I've never been to before, so yeah, nice little way to wrap it all up. I'm going to cool down now and I'll catch up with you in just a second. Stay tuned.
It is now the following week, but I just thought that I would get back to you and give you a bit of a rundown of how the week went. For me, numbers aside, it was a real good one. I felt very good, not just physically, but also mentally too. As I mentioned, I've been in the trenches this year with illness. Not only has it knocked my performance, but it's also knocked my confidence a bit as well. I can't lie, at one point I may or may not have messaged my coach and said, we're cancelling the Fred Whitton, I can't do it, I'm not going to have the legs for it, but this week has kind of given my confidence a little bit of a boost. The legs are coming back, I'm feeling strong. But anyway, enough yapping, let's dive into those numbers so you can see the type of work that I'm doing across the week. So looking on Training Peaks then, across the week we had about 10.5 hours on the bike. We built up a total of 550 TSS. We covered 280k and did around about 5,400 kilojoules of work. We also went a crap load too. So looking at my consistency across the week, as you can see here, I nailed most of it. I got in every single session that was planned, including the strength session. I didn't have the best time with my VO2 max ones, but
we move on from that. I still put in the work and it was still hard, and that is the main thing, that progressive overload. Sunday's ride, didn't really stick to the plan on that one, but at the end of the day, I got on the bike and I absolutely smashed it, which I think is good, you know. Let's have a little look at the actual session though on intervals.icu, because I'm really happy with some of the things which have come up. So we reset my power profiling for the year since I started with Bernardo. So any new best power numbers are kind of popping up at the end of my ride, so it's nice to see. My short efforts are coming along quite nicely now. These numbers might not be impressive for you, and they also don't reflect my best ever power, but it's nice to see. We got a 5-second power PB of 864. Now bear in mind, this wasn't a full balls to the wall sprint, it was just a smash up a climb basically. 10-second 823 watts, so not really far behind there. 20-second 721, 30-second 600, 60 seconds 421 watts. That's all right, isn't it? Considering I wasn't specifically going for those efforts, it's good to see that the legs are coming, and I felt pretty strong on all of those. The sprint where I believe I got those numbers uphill, I'm not gonna lie, at the end I was literally just sat in the saddle and could hardly turn the pedals. I really went for it, but anyway, a real solid and hopefully honest week of training in the run up to Fred Whitton. This week I have started a threshold block and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't like threshold work, but I think this is where the difference is going to be made, and this is the type of power that I need to aim for to make the challenges coming ahead nice and sustainable. I'm going to shut up now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any thoughts or any questions. Love to answer them, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ra.